Okay, wow. So I've always wanted to interview famous people in the internet political sphere, and I thought it would take me years to get big enough to be noticed and sort of plug into those worlds. But as luck would have it, I was reached out to by the Daily Wire a few weeks ago, and they were kind enough to set up this interview with me. So without further ado, Dr. Jordan Peterson, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Well, glad to be here, man. I've watched much of your work, and I think you're a reasonable voice on the left. And your content has really made me reflect a lot on my own career. And I was hoping to talk to you about some realizations I've had today.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm honored that you like my content that much. Where were you wanting to begin?
Well, where to begin is a complicated question. It's by no means self-evident where we should begin. It's the fundamental question in some sense. Well, I suppose let's start at the beginning. I rose to prominence in 2016 in response to my content on some, let's say, transgender-related legislation that was being proposed in Canada that I may have overstated the case for. And as a consequence, my psychological lectures rapidly increased in popularity, changing my life quite dramatically. Over the years, I have become increasingly, shall we say, political in my content. The focus has shifted from psychology and self-improvement to talking about transgender people, climate change, economics, and foreign policy. On all of these fronts, there are appropriate criticisms to be made of the excesses of the left, and God only knows I do that. But it's not obvious to me that I have been, let's say, sufficiently precise and careful in my speech. I have come to realize that my content has become increasingly one-sided, not only in my utterances, but with my selection of guests as well. For example, the vitriol and strangely excessive focus I give to the transgender issue, that weird video I put out about Elliot Page, I'm not proud of that. I think it is fine and necessary to criticize the excesses of the trans movement, but it should be done in good faith, and it's by no means self-evident that I have genuinely engaged with pro-trans arguments in that way. Having to detransition is a terrible thing, but isn't it equally terrible to not allow young people to transition who may genuinely need it? What if I took a more balanced approach to this topic? Instead of dismissing it and only focusing on detransitioners, I could talk to trans people who are happy with their choice to transition as well, to balance things out. After all, I've been a lifelong clinician. I, of all people, should be equipped to come at issues this complicated with humility and engage with both sides, instead of focusing only on one side of the issue and becoming so bitter and needlessly provocative. Furthermore, on the issue of climate change, I have only had anti-climate change scientists on my show. People like Richard Lindzen, who still argue that cigarettes don't cause cancer, and Bjorn Lomborg and Stephen Koonin. And I platform these people without ever having a pro-climate change scientist on to offer a counterbalance and give my audience the full perspective. I fear my channel has become an echo chamber in this way, something I've always criticized the left for being, and now I have created my own. This and many other issues, like my rhetoric on talking about globalists without ever actually defining what the hell that is, makes me fear I have become merely another cog in the culture war machine, another angry voice shouting into the void, attacking low-hanging fruit, spreading bitterness, a black and white picture of reality, promising simple answers to complicated questions, using my platform to almost exclusively give my audience only one half of the picture of the political landscape. What started as me critiquing the excesses of the radical left, not only their prescriptions for how to fix society, but the sanctimony, the vindictiveness, the vitriol, the blind, tribalistic anger with which they did this, has quickly degenerated into me becoming the same thing. I spent much of my early career as a clinician, trying to understand people, learning to listen and really hear what they have to say, being patient, cultivating empathy and nuance, teaching people the importance of getting their house in order before criticizing the world, because what the hell do you know? I fear that I have abandoned these principles, and I have observed myself slowly become the same kind of partisan, self-righteous, smug, bitter, sanctimonious force I have accused the left of being for so long. I fear I have, become a right-wing hack. And that's not an easy thing for me to say. I lie awake at night, gazing long into the abyss, and I know in my heart I have become everything I swore I would not. And I want to change. I want to do better. I want to use my platform for good, for nuance, for understanding complicated issues, for bringing people together, not bitterly driving them further apart. Everything I have always railed against about the radical online left, I have become, and it's time to get back to my roots, as a psychologist, and someone who encourages others to seek out the highest possible value they can align themselves in accordance with. The thing that really beckons forth in them that which is noble and true, because life is hard, man, and people need something like that to bastion themselves against the inevitable onslaught of tragedy and needless suffering that is inherent in being. Because, man, if you don't have something to tether yourself to against that, life will just tear you to bloody pieces. I mean, God, I used to talk about things like that. I used to help people, and now I just call women ugly on Twitter and insult trans people on a weekly basis. I fear I have veered from my course and taken the path of Cain instead of Abel. My fame has taken a toll on me, but I want to get this right. I have essentially become an unwitting propagandist for the right, and it's time to change. It's time for a new, based era of Jordan Peterson.
Holy shit. Yeah, that's amazing, Dr. Peterson. I'm really glad to hear you say that. Genuinely. Yeah, it's never too late to change, to become more open-minded or more intellectually honest. I mean, we all make mistakes, we all get angry sometimes, we all get blinded, but we're not defined by who we are at any one specific point in time. We're defined by our ability to change. I understand that being famous and publicly committing to positions makes them very hard to change, but I respect anyone who's willing to do it. And of course, there will always be people on the left who will continue to, dislike you or make exaggerated claims about you. But I think lots of people on the left would welcome you with open arms and become fans if you become a much more balanced, empathetic commentator. So, yeah, I mean, this is amazing. It almost feels too good to be true.
Yeah, well, it's nice to think about what could have been, eh?
Wait, what do you mean by that? Do you? Oh, it can't be. Oh no, I thought it was real. Oh God.
Yeah, I got moves you like that, postmodern neo-Marxists. Oh yeah,
Up
take
yours,
this.
woke
Saving Western
moralists.
civilization.
We'll
one
see
thought
who
at a
cancels
time.
who.
You bloody postmodern neo-Marxists.